Hello everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to another Frothy Finance Friday, where I talk about two of my favorite things, craft beer and financial planning. This week I'm over at Charlestowne Fermentory. They have two locations. This is their garden location, which I like. It's a lot more kid friendly than they have another one in Avondale. These are both in Charleston. So I came over here. This week I'm talking about Hazy IPAs and HSAs. I feel like a lot of people know what an HSA is, but probably are not using it as effectively as they could be. So I'm going to try to keep this kind of short and sweet. As you can see, I'm sweating. It's a little warm outside today. So anyway, when I think of Hazy IPAs, this is easily probably my favorite brewery in town, and definitely probably the best maker of Hazy IPAs in town. Lead brewer, I believe, started up at Trillium up in the Boston area, and then has been open down here a while ago. And kind of their flagship one is Sungazer. It's probably my favorite beer in South Carolina. That's like one of their flagship beers, not like one-offs or whatever. But I've already covered that one before, so I kind of wanted to feature another one that I've been kind of into here recently. This is Mars Express. It's an American Pale Ale. With Hazy, as you can see, it's very hazy. It's generally like what we call like a New England IPA, that style, versus like a West Coast IPA, which is not typically as hazy in color. But this is just a really tasty beer. I like it because it's not a massive beer. It's about a little over 5% ABV, but it's super tasty. And so anyway, without further ado, let's just get into it. Cheers. Yeah, you get a lot of the peach, mango, a lot of like tropical notes in this. It's really, really tasty. It's drier than some of the other ones here. I feel like some of the other ones are a little bit sweeter maybe. This is definitely drier. And also, one thing I love about most of Charlestown IPAs is they're very soft in the mouthfeel. It's very nice drinking it. But this is a very crushable beer, super tasty. Get a little there's a lot of citrus notes in this as well. Just a very, very delicious beer. They have a limited distribution range. You'll see them around town if you're here in the Charleston area. They're at Bottles and some of the other places here in town, and you can find their stuff occasionally. I have not seen this in other parts of sorry, you're all sweat. I haven't seen this in other parts of the state, but it's just a super tasty beer, and I highly recommend it. So let's just go ahead and switch and start talking about HSAs. One more, I need to clear my throat real quick. Cheers. So HSAs, health savings accounts, sound really boring. And you're like, Daniel, why are you talking about this? Well, it's the most tax efficient account basically in the U.S. tax code right now. When you make a contribution, you get a deduction. It grows tax free or tax deferred, and when you pull it out for a qualified medical expense, you can pull it out tax free, which is pretty awesome. So. But the thing is that most people, I feel like, do not use these to their utmost capabilities. I think about 90% of the money in these accounts are in cash, and so a lot of that's not being invested and utilized. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, some HSAs do not allow you to really invest much of the money, but the good ones out there, you can actually invest the money similar to an IRA or a Roth IRA. And so what I tell people to kind of think about it as is a retirement account for your health savings. So what is an HSA? Who can contribute? All that kind of stuff. So in order to contribute to an HSA, you have to be enrolled in the HDHP plan, a high deductible healthcare plan. Really, if you're a younger person and you have a decent amount sitting in savings, just in cash, I usually an HDHP is a good way to go in general, just because you generally save a lot on your premiums month to month. But what you're giving up with that is, as the name implies, you have a higher deductible. So For 2024, that deductible for a family is $16,100. So what a deductible is before you can, you're basically paying out of pocket for the first $16,000 of health-related stuff for the year before you can before your insurance basically kicks in. So it still allows for if you have some sort of like a major event. We had a pretty high a very serious, drawing a blank on the name, a serious pregnancy, where I ended up, my wife was in the hospital for a month, and then our youngest, he was born about 2 months premature, so he spent an additional 2 months in the hospital. And if you saw that medical bill what insurance paid out, it was I want to say it was like $700,000 or something like that. So it still kick in on the major catastrophic, like long hospital stays, all that kind of stuff. But basically the occasional doctor visit or going to the pharmacy or something like that, you're expected to pay that out of pocket. But what you get in return for that, and where an HSA comes in, is, and why they're there, and what they're intended to be used for, is because you have this massive deductible, you need to be putting money away so that you can pay out of that account for health-related issues before you reach your deductible for the year. And so, excuse me. But what I would encourage people to do is to not use that money for that. What I would encourage people to do is to save that money and invest it for the long term. Unlike an FSA, which you basically a flexible spending account, which you have to basically drain at the end of every single year, HSAs do not require you to use the money in the year that you are contributing. And there's also a thing where it doesn't give you any little timetable on when you actually can reimburse yourself with that money. So let's say that you went to the doctor and paid $150 for a visit to the doctor, and you paid out of pocket. As long as you keep record of that, you can reimburse yourself whenever. And so let's say that 10 years down the road, you want to go and start your own business, and you want to make sure you have a little extra cash on hand to fund it in case the business takes a little bit of time to get off the ground. Well, you can start going back and looking at your receipts, or what I usually tell people is to take like an Excel document and have it all listed out of what you paid and when and dated, and you can drain all the way up to basically reimburse yourself whenever, whether that be next week or 10, 20 years down the road. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility in that. Please note that the one thing that you don't want to do with these is to pull out the money out before retirement for a non-healthcare related expense, because it's a 20% penalty on it. So you don't want to do that. But really the most optimal way to do it is to think, like I said, invest for the long term. You can invest these similar to a Roth IRA. And so I really encourage people to kind of think of it as like a Roth IRA for retirement. One of the biggest expenses in retirement is health-related issues. As we get older, we start having things break down, and we have to go to the doctor a lot. And so I think it's usually, the estimates is like usually a third to half of cost in retirement is medical related. So that's really the most efficient way to do these. These are a little different than like an IRA, where it's an individual amount that you can contribute per person. So like an IRA literally stands for individual retirement account. These are, if you are just solely an individual, there is a cap of $4,150 for this year, for 2024. And then there is a cap of $8,300 for family. So if you're married, or you have a wife, or you have kids, there's a $8,300 cap that you guys can total contribute to an HSA account per year. So very similar to an IRA too. If you're in a HSA provider, so you have an HSA through work, and they don't allow you, or they don't have very good, some of them just have really high, you got to have a lot of money in there before they allow you to invest up some of it, or some of them won't really allow you to invest much of anything, or they have really bad investments, something like that. Similar to an IRA where you can roll that money into a different plan. You can do the same thing with an HSA. Once that money is put into your HSA, you can move it wherever and transfer it wherever. So one provider that I would recommend is Lively. And if you look it up online, I believe the website is livelyme.com. There's two different Livelies, so if you type in lively.com, that's not where you want to go. It's livelyme.com. But what I like about them is they allow you to invest basically all the money, and they're on Schwab, so you can pick the mutual funds that you want to use to invest that money. And the only cost is a very minimal. You can either put $3,000 and keep $3,000 in cash in the account, and then invest anything above that for no fee, or you can pay a $24 annual fee with no minimums on the investment. So I usually recommend people just do the $24 and invest that money accordingly. But you can choose to do whichever. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. It's a very, very, very tax efficient account. Imagine getting a deductible a deduction like you can on a traditional IRA up front, and then it grows tax deferred, and then you get similar to a Roth, the benefit of pulling it out tax free in retirement. Let's say if some people ask me like, well, what if I'm like super healthy, my entire family's super healthy, we don't have a lot of health related issues. Well, once you hit retirement age, you can actually pull money out of this as well, like you would like a 401k. So let's say that you've drained all of your reimbursements back to you. Once you're done with that, once you've hit retirement age, you can actually start making withdrawals like you would have a 401k, and would just count towards ordinary income. So in that case, it's not quite as sweet of a deal because you obviously would have to pay ordinary income tax on it, but you have gotten the benefit of having a deduction up front, and it's grown tax deferred. So anyway, that's what an HSA is. Hopefully that makes sense. I apologize for all the sweat. I'm like pouring sweat today, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to go to a place that I really enjoy. Again, Charlestowne Fermentory. People outside of Charleston may not know as much about it, but I really think it's probably the best brewery in South Carolina. Have a lot of really good beers. Another one that's great here that's only here during the summer is their El Rayo. It's a tequila barrel-aged goza. It's like a margarita goza that's just like freaking amazing. Sometimes they'll put it on in like the slushy machine and make it a slushy, and it's amazing. And I might actually get one of those here in a second after I'm done with this Mars Express. But anyway, it's getting really hot, and I apologize for all the time, just like gushing. But this is a cool place if you're in the Charleston area and you have. I think Emmons is probably the best place. Emmons Brewing Co. Is probably the best place to go if you have kids, because they can just run around everywhere. But this is a nice little area where there's an outdoor garden back here, like a beer garden, with kind of a cool outdoor space back here. So this is another cool place to check out. But again, this is Mars Express. It's a delicious beer. Check it out when you get a chance. And hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.